She told her husband she'd abort their baby unless he earned more. Was she wrong to set that ultimatum? He looked her in the eye and said he wanted to keep the baby. And she looked right back and said, "Only if you make more money." That moment stopped everything cold. Because what she said was not cruel, it was not casual, and it was not something she said without thinking. It was a woman who had done the math, looked at her own life with total honesty, and said out loud what most people would be too afraid to even think. Let us back up and actually look at this situation, because the details matter more than people realize. She is a stay-at-home mom. She has 3 children, all 3 years old and under. Read that again. 3 children who are 3, and then younger than that, and then younger still. That is not just a full schedule. That is an around-the-clock physical and emotional demand that does not stop when the sun goes down, does not take weekends off, and does not give her sick days. She is managing 3 tiny human beings who cannot feed themselves, cannot fully communicate what they need, and require constant supervision just to stay safe. Think about what that house actually looks like. Think about the noise, the mess, the competing cries, the constant negotiation of needs from people who do not yet have the words to tell you what hurts or what they want or why they are inconsolable at 2 in the morning. There is no quiet corner in that house. There is no moment where she puts something down and it stays put. Her body, her attention, her emotional reserves, all of it is spoken for before she even opens her eyes in the morning. And she is not just doing that. She is also working part-time, bringing in under $800 a week on average. She is also in school, which means she is studying, completing coursework, and trying to build a future for herself while simultaneously raising 3 babies and managing a household. That is not a woman who is coasting. That is a woman who is running at full capacity every single hour of every single day, and she knows it better than anyone. She is the one who feels it in her body when she finally sits down at night and has nothing left. She is the one who opens a textbook after the kids are asleep and tries to make her exhausted brain retain information while the rest of the world has already clocked out. She is doing all of that on purpose, deliberately, because she is trying to be more than just a body that absorbs the chaos. She is trying to build something for herself. That context is not a footnote. It is the entire picture. Her husband earns $85,000 a year. That sounds like a solid income, and in a vacuum it is. But they have 3 children under 3. They have a home that needs repairs. They have a list of expenses that apparently keeps growing. 2 of the 3 kids do not even have their own room yet. So when she says they cannot afford another child, she is not being dramatic or using money as an excuse. She is looking at an actual budget, an actual household, an actual life, and she is doing the math with clear eyes. $85,000 spread across 5 people, a mortgage or rent, utilities, diapers, food, clothing that children grow out of every few months, medical appointments, and all the invisible costs of keeping a family functional is not a number that leaves room for carelessness. It is a number that requires discipline and planning just to stay level. Adding another child does not just add one more line to the budget. It reshapes the entire structure of what is financially possible for everyone already inside it. Now here is where it gets genuinely complicated, and this is the part that requires real honesty. She is pregnant. She did not plan this. She was on birth control. And before anyone opens their mouth about that, she already addressed it directly. Birth control is not 100% effective. It never has been. That is a medical fact, not an opinion. A woman can do everything right and still find herself in exactly this situation. She followed the rules. She made a responsible choice and took her contraception seriously, and it still happened anyway, because that is how biology works sometimes. The failure was not hers. Judging her for the pregnancy itself is not a conversation worth having. What she told her husband was this: "If you want me to continue this pregnancy, then I need you to earn more. I need this household to be able to actually support another life." That sentence alone is worth sitting with, because it is not a demand made from a place of greed or indifference. It is a demand made from a place of exhaustion and realism. She is the one who would carry the pregnancy. She is the one who would deliver. She is the one who would wake up in those first impossible months while still trying to manage the 3 children who are already here. She knows exactly what she is being asked to take on, and she is telling him honestly that she cannot do it under the current conditions. And on the surface, a lot of people hear that and feel uncomfortable, because it sounds transactional, it sounds cold, it sounds like she is putting a price on a human life. But that reaction, while understandable, misses the entire point of what she is actually saying. She is not saying she does not care about the baby. She is saying she cannot keep breaking herself open to give more than she has. She is saying that bringing a 4th child into a home that is already stretched thin, where she is already carrying the full weight of the emotional and physical labor, where she is still in school trying to build a future, would not be an act of love for that child. It would be an act of overwhelming an already strained system. And the person who would pay the highest price for that would be her. Not in some abstract future tense way, but in the immediate, grinding, daily way that only she can fully feel. She already knows what one more feeding, one more illness, one more sleepless night does to a person who has no reserves left. She is not guessing at that. She is living it right now, and she is telling her husband that she cannot absorb more of it without something material changing first. This is actually what so many people miss when they react to abortion conversations with pure emotion. Resources are real. Mental and emotional capacity are real. The quality of care a parent can give is directly connected to the bandwidth they have left. A parent running on empty does not give less love, but they do give less presence, less patience, less stability, and those things matter deeply to children who are absorbing the world around them and learning what safety feels like. She already said it herself. A 4th child would take away resources and time from the 3 children she already has. That is not a throwaway line. That is a mother doing the honest, uncomfortable math of what expanding her family would actually cost the family she already has. She is not being selfish. She is being a mother who is thinking about the children she already brought into the world and what they deserve. And those children deserve a mother who is present, not one who is running past her limit every single day just to keep everyone alive. And here is the part that deserves to sit for a moment. He is distraught. He does not want an abortion. That is a real emotional response and it matters. She acknowledged it. She did not dismiss it. She said he knows it is her choice, and she did not say that to shut him down. She said it because it is medically and legally true. But she also laid out a path where she would consider continuing the pregnancy, and that path requires him to step up financially. He is not being told no with no way forward. He is being told here is the door and here is the key. What he does with that information will say everything about how seriously he takes the weight that she is carrying, and how willing he is to do more than just want an outcome while leaving the cost of that outcome entirely on her. Is that an ultimatum? Yes. Is an ultimatum automatically wrong? No. People use ultimatums in relationships when they reach a point where something fundamental needs to change and softer conversations have not gotten them there. They are not weapons by definition. Sometimes they are the last honest tool a person has when everything softer has already been tried or when the stakes are too high to leave the conversation vague and open-ended. She is not threatening him out of spite. She is not trying to punish him or win an argument. She is telling him what she actually needs to feel safe bringing another life into their family. She is drawing a line not out of cruelty but out of self-preservation, and out of love for the children who are already depending on her to make good decisions. There is a meaningful difference between a threat and a boundary, and what she did was draw a boundary. She told the truth about where she stands. That is not cruelty. That is communication. And frankly, it is more than a lot of people would manage under the same pressure. Some people are going to argue that she should have had more conversations before reaching this point, that she should have explored other options, that she is being too rigid. But here is the thing. She is the one in that house every day. She is the one who knows what 3 kids under 3 actually feels like from the inside. She is the one who wakes up in the night, handles the illnesses, manages the chaos, does the laundry, makes the food, and still finds time to attend class and work. He knows she is the one doing it. He said so himself. And that acknowledgement is important, because it means he understands why her capacity to handle more is the determining factor here. It also means he cannot claim ignorance. He has watched this happen. He has lived in the same house where she stretches herself across every responsibility without complaint, and now that she is finally saying out loud that she has reached her limit, the least he can do is hear her. There is also something deeply important about the way she framed this whole conversation. She did not say she would never have another child. She did not say the marriage was over. She said, here is what I need to feel like this is possible. She gave him an actual answer, a real thing he could work toward, a concrete way to show her that he was willing to meet the weight of this with her instead of just wanting the outcome without sharing the load. That is not a woman being harsh. That is a woman being honest. And there is a kind of courage in that kind of honesty that is easy to overlook when the words themselves feel uncomfortable. She could have said nothing. She could have made the decision quietly and told him after. Instead, she opened the door and told him exactly what she needed. That is an act of respect, even if it does not feel like one in the moment. Now let us be fair and look at this from every angle, because this situation does not exist in a simple moral bubble. Some people will say it is not fair to tie a life or death decision to a paycheck. And that is a valid emotional response. But she is not treating money as the only variable here. She mentioned the emotional toll, the mental load, the lack of space, the current demands. The money is the part that can actually change. The money is the measurable thing. If he earns more, they can afford childcare, repairs, maybe a bigger home eventually. Money is the variable that moves the needle on nearly everything else she listed. It is not that she is reducing this entire situation to dollars. It is that dollars are the one thing in this equation that has a lever attached to it. Everything else, the exhaustion, the emotional weight, the lack of space, all of that gets better or worse depending on what the financial foundation looks like underneath it. She is not being reductive. She is being precise. She is in school. That matters enormously. She is building towards something. She is trying to make sure that she is not permanently dependent, that she has a career, that her children grow up with a mother who has options. Adding a 4th pregnancy right now does not just add another body to the house. It threatens her ability to finish what she started for herself and ultimately for them. Pregnancy changes a body. It changes a schedule. It changes what a person can reasonably demand of themselves during the months it takes to grow and then deliver and then recover from bringing a human being into the world. She knows this firsthand. She has done it 3 times. She knows that another pregnancy is not just a few months of inconvenience. It is a complete reorganization of what she is physically and mentally able to accomplish during that time. And she is in the middle of building something that cannot afford to be derailed. And here is what the verdict has to be. She is not the bad guy here. She is a woman who is already giving everything and was honest enough to say so out loud. She loves her husband, she clearly cares about the children she already has, and she did not come to this position carelessly. She came to it after doing the real math on her real life. The fact that she told him clearly, without hiding or minimizing, shows more respect for their relationship than pretending she was okay when she was not. The strongest thing in this story is not the ultimatum. It is her refusal to lie about what she could handle. She set a condition. He can meet it or he cannot. But she was never going to silently collapse under the weight of more than she could carry just to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. And honestly, good for her. She hosted Mother's Day for 25 years and never once got to enjoy it. Now they're shocked she said no. For 25 years she cooked the food, cleaned the house, planned the decorations, played the host, and smiled through all of it. And the one day that was supposed to be about her, she spent making sure everyone else was comfortable. This year she said no. And somehow, that was the controversial decision. Let us actually lay out what Mother's Day looked like in this woman's life for the past 2.5 decades. She is 55 years old. She has been married for 25 years. She is a mother herself, and the only person in her family who had children. So naturally, all the holiday gatherings happened at her house. She organized them. She cleaned up before everyone arrived. She wiped down the counters, arranged the flowers, set out the good dishes, and made sure every corner of her home looked like she had not been working on it for days, even though she had. She cooked the meals from scratch, timed the courses, and kept the food warm while she made sure everyone else had a full plate before she ever sat down. She kept the energy going, steering conversations, refilling glasses, making sure no one felt left out or forgotten. And then when everyone left, she cleaned up again, alone, putting the house back together while the people she had just spent hours serving drove home full and satisfied. She did this every single year. Not sometimes. Every single year. And here is the thing that makes this particular situation feel like something most people have experienced in some form. The gathering was for Mother's Day. The people being celebrated were her mother-in-law, and her stepmother. 3 women who were honored, seated, fed, and appreciated. They received the cards, the kind words, the comfortable chairs at the head of the table. And the woman who made all of that possible? She was the one standing in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove, listening to the laughter in the other room, and probably telling herself it was fine. Her own kids could not always be there. Her youngest son joined the army 3 years ago. Her other child lives far away. And the year that broke her was the year when neither of her own children could make it, one living at a distance and one deployed overseas. She still hosted. She still planned and cooked and cleaned and entertained. She spent Mother's Day celebrating everyone except herself, in honor of a holiday that was technically supposed to include her, while her own kids were not even in the room. That is a genuinely gutting detail. Think about what that day must have felt like from the inside. She is setting the table, smoothing out the tablecloth, checking on the roast, making sure the flowers are centered, and somewhere in the back of her mind she knows her son is in another country, in uniform, in conditions she cannot fully picture and probably does not let herself think about too long. She cannot talk to him. She cannot hug him. She cannot even just sit across from him at a meal and feel the ordinary comfort of his presence. And she still showed up for everyone else. She still smiled and served and made the day beautiful for 3 other mothers while quietly carrying the particular ache of a mother whose children are simply not there. That kind of emotional labor, performed silently and without recognition, does not just disappear when the dishes are done. It accumulates over years into something heavy and shapeless that sits in your chest long after the guests have gone home. By the end of last year's gathering, something had shifted in her. Maybe it had been building for a while and that day was simply the moment it became impossible to ignore. She had made a decision, and she announced it clearly, with enough lead time that no one could later claim they were caught off guard. She told everyone in the family that she was done hosting Mother's Day. No more planning, no more cooking, no more being the invisible engine behind a celebration that was never actually about her. She said it plainly and directly. She expected to be heard. She was not heard. Because this year, the texts started coming in, cheerful and completely unbothered, everyone asking what are we doing for Mother's Day this year, as if she had said absolutely nothing the year before. As if her declaration was just a passing mood, a moment of exhaustion that time would smooth over, and that the reliable, capable woman they had always counted on would eventually correct herself and fall back into the familiar role. The casual assumption that she would fall back in line and take care of everyone again, without anyone pausing to ask whether she needed someone to take care of her for once, is honestly breathtaking. It is the kind of thing that reveals how little space someone has been given to have needs of their own. And she is not someone who hates these women. That is important to say. This is not about contempt for her mother, her stepmother, or her mother-in-law. She presumably loves them. She spent 25 years proving it with her time and her labor and her consistency. This is about a woman who reached a completely understandable point where she wanted to simply stop. Not forever necessarily. Not as an act of war or punishment. Just, this year, for herself. Just 1 year of not being responsible for everyone else's experience of a holiday that technically belongs to her too. Her position is clear and it is completely fair. Neither of her own children will be there this year either. Her son is still deployed, still far away in a way that carries its own specific weight for a mother. Her other child still lives far away. So she will not have her kids with her. She will not be sitting at a table where someone looked her in the eye and said thank you for everything you do and meant it in the full way that phrase deserves to be meant. She has already decided that if she is not going to have that, she would rather spend the day doing something for herself. Something quiet. Something that does not require her to be on her feet managing the comfort of others. Something that actually feels like rest and recognition rather than just a slightly more decorated version of every other day she gives to everyone around her. You know what the real irony is here? The women who are texting her asking what the plan is for Mother's Day are mothers themselves. They know what it is like to carry the invisible weight of planning and hosting. They have presumably experienced at some point the particular exhaustion of being needed by everyone and thanked by no one, of pouring yourself into a day and ending it more depleted than when you started. They understand, at least in theory, what it costs. And yet not one of them has apparently looked at this situation and thought, maybe we should be the ones planning something for her this year instead of waiting to be hosted again. That silence is louder than any of the texts. That says a lot. It says that the dynamic has been so fixed for so long that no one even noticed it was unfair. She was always the host. She was always the one who made it happen, who turned an ordinary Sunday into something that felt like a real occasion. And that role became so normalized, so completely assumed, that when she stepped out of it, everyone's instinct was not gratitude or concern or even a moment of genuine reflection. It was confusion. Where is the gathering? What are we doing? As if the event was the point and she was just the mechanism that produced it, reliable and renewable and not in need of anything herself. Now here is the verdict, and it is not a complicated one. She is not the bad guy. She is not selfish. She is not abandoning anyone. She is a woman who gave 25 years of her time, energy, and emotional labor to a holiday that was supposed to celebrate her and never did. She gave everyone fair warning a full year in advance. She was clear. She was direct. And she held her ground when the texts came in trying to pull her back into the old pattern. The right response from everyone around her would have been to say, you know what, you are right. Let us do something for you this year. Let us plan it. Let us take care of it. You sit down and let us celebrate you for once. The fact that no one did that, the fact that the response was just renewed expectation and mild bewilderment that she meant what she said, tells you everything you need to know about how invisible her effort had been all along. She deserves a day that belongs to her. She has earned it about 25 times over. And if the people who love her cannot see that, then spending the day alone doing something that actually fills her up is not just okay. It is exactly right. Some traditions deserve to be broken, especially the ones that were only ever a tradition for everyone else. Drop a comment below telling me which story hit harder for you. I genuinely want to know. And if you made it this far, a like and subscribe would mean a lot.